Welcome once again to What Retirement Means to You with financial advisor Jerry Means. He's the president and founder of the Means Financial Group, and I am Spike Spengel. Jerry, you said you wanted me to take this one for you because today we are going to talk about what retiring will look like today, how it's different from yesterday, and how to imagine it tomorrow.
Can you say that 3 times fast?
No, I won't. Retirement planning today is so much more complicated, and it is a completely different landscape, and we want to make sure you, our viewers, are prepared for it. It's not the same retirement as our parents and grandparents. Is this overwhelming to somebody who comes into your office when you say, we've got to look at 30 to 35 years of spending?
Yeah, it really is, and I know I've mentioned it before, but it's such an important example. My grandfather was retired for 30 years. He retired in his 60s, lived well into his 90s. And, he always said it was his longest stint of unemployment that he ever had. But his retirement looked a lot different. When he retired, interest rates were much higher. He had a pension. He had Social Security. His home was paid for. So he had that safety net. He wasn't relying so much on the stock market in his retirement. Today, most retirees they're relying on their investments and not outliving those. So it's really important to have a strategic way of making withdrawals. We have to really look at fees, taxes, legislative risk. I don't know if you've noticed, Spike, but we're kind of in a geopolitical nightmare right now. Not sure which way things are going to go. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of things that people today have to worry about that 30 years ago they didn't have to.
And if they are, though, worrying and watching their screens all of the time, it's got to create a lot more anxiety. You and I have talked about this on our weekly radio show here in the St. Louis area, that there's more anxiety today about retirement planning than there has been ever before. And part of it is that spending and trying to figure out, what do we do with these 401ks, these 403bs, these things that we've saved into, to turn it into our dads or grandfathers or grandparents' income plan that they had with those pensions. So is it just leaving our money in those accounts and letting them grow and hope we don't take it out during downturns in the market, or how do we protect some of it?
Well, going back to what we were just talking about with the pensions versus 401ks, I read a study that came out, it actually came out in 2022, so they probably need to update it a little bit, but it said in 1980, 60% of retirees had a pension, 60%. And only about 5% actually owned a stock. To me, that's crazy to really think about. But today, it's 5% of retirees, it's 60% of retirees own a stock, and only about 5% actually have a pension.
Yeah.
So it's a big flip that we have seen. There's a lot of government pensions out there. There's some companies that we know of, big companies that are still offering pensions, but we're seeing those fade away. So it used to be a guaranteed retirement, like my grandfather's, has now become a risky retirement. It used to be pensions helped you, Social Security helped you. Now it's been left a lot of times to people to do on their own if they don't have a financial advisor. So again, just having that strategic plan and looking at the tax implications as well, because we see right now that taxes may be froze where they're at, or we hear the word permanent, right? Permanent tax. It's very misleading to people because nothing's permanent when it comes to government. All that means is they're not going to sunset. They're permanent until a new bill gets proposed and gets passed through the House and Senate.
A new administration comes in and they want to change them as well. So they're not going to be permanent. And by the way, one of the big things about your tax tool, we've got a free tax tool. We'll explain how you can log on to it and get the tax information that you need, is that we're in some of the lowest tax brackets we've ever been in U.S. history. And that's a hard thing to visualize. But we can just go back about 45 years ago, our highest tax brackets were around 70 to 75%. And there were a lot of brackets that were at 60 and even 50%. We're nowhere near that right now, are we?
Yeah, taxes are actually on sale right now. And if you think about it, 30 years in retirement, how many administrations will that retiree see in that 30-year retirement?
And how many administrations that they're a fan of?
Right, yeah. But there's going to be proposed changes again somewhere down the line. So if these tax cuts get extended permanently, it's a good time to do some tax planning. Look at Roth conversions. That's a big thing that we talk about. And that brings us to the tax tool, the meantaxes.com that's on the screen. If clients click on that QR code, they can go in and they can punch in all of their pre-tax account values, and they can look at all the different options as far as paying taxes now, doing conversions, and how much it could possibly save them. They get a full report. There's no cost, no obligation. And of course, if they want more explanation on that report, that's something that they can call our office and that we can help them with.
It's such a great tool. Let's keep this up on the screen right now. Let's make the show interactive. I know that you've got your cell phone there while we're all watching TV. Open it up to the camera function and point it at the black and white QR code box. When you point it on there, just click on it. You're going to put in a few different inputs, as Jerry was just talking about. But really, it's about how much do you have saved in those tax-deferred accounts. You kind of put in that input in there along with your tax bracket. It's going to send you immediately a report that's going to tell you how much you owe in taxes on all of those accounts. And that's in this picture window of time right now. You leave that money in there, it's going to continue to grow and grow, and meaning you're going to pay more and more in taxes. But wanting to pay all of those taxes at one time on, let's say, hundreds of thousands, if not $1 million or $2 million in your accounts there, that's a big chunk of taxes to pay. Do you want people to pay all of those taxes at once to get Uncle Sam out, or can we do this over time?
Absolutely not. I mean, we have software programs where we sit down and we help the client figure out when is the best sweet point, how much should we convert. And so once they do the tax calculator and they see, okay, this is what I'm looking at, how do I fix the problem? We have the solutions for that. And that's one of the things that we can do if you call our office. The number's 844-878-1293. We're offering to you what we call our on-track retirement review. Whether you're currently retired or approaching retirement, we can sit down with you and we can look at your tax implications of your portfolio. We can look at the fees that you're paying and see if we can shave some of those down, because saving on fees can help you grow your portfolio. We can look at the risk in your portfolio. Have you risk adjusted for retirement? We can look at your income plan. What is your strategic income plan to make those withdrawals? There's so many things that we can sit down and help you with. It never hurts to get a second opinion, and you can't get a second opinion from the person that gave you the first one. So give us a call, 844-878-1293.
More with Jerry Means and what retirement means to you when we get back. Solutions for you right after this message from Jerry himself.
I was like most kids. I wanted to be, law enforcement or fireman or baseball player, of course, that sort of thing. But growing up, even at an early age, my grandfather was a big influence on me. He was kind of the monarch of the family that everyone went to, and if they had questions, they always went to my grandpa, and I was the oldest grandson. And I noticed that during the holidays, we would be at his house, and he had 2 living rooms, and one of the living rooms he always stayed in, and everyone else kind of gathered in the other room. And he was reading the Wall Street Journal and watching the stock market and, taking a look at where things were and talking to me about politics. We just had a really good relationship, and I took an interest in investing. So he taught me how to read the Wall Street Journal when I was 13 years old. So if you can imagine, I went to school, I knew more about investing than most of my teachers did. I knew what bonds were, what equities were, how the market worked. I still wasn't planning on getting in that line of work. It just was interesting to me. It was kind of a bonding time with my grandfather. And then fast forward into my early 20s, I got a phone call from a financial advisor that worked with my grandfather, and he said, "Hey, we're looking to recruit, young guys that might want to get into business, and your grandfather said to give you a call." And once they showed me what they did, I thought, this seems like it would be a good fit for me. And 25 years later, we just celebrated our 25th anniversary in the business, so it was the right move for me.
Welcome back to What Retirement Means to You with financial advisor Jerry Means of the Means Financial Group right here in the greater St. Louis area. Retirement, we're living longer, so we've got to try to create income for 30 to 35 years from these savings, from these investments. Now, I'm a pretty bad golfer. I've come up short of the green many, many times trying to chip up there, or even just shooting a free throw, hitting the front of the rim. You don't want to come up short, though, when it comes to your retirement savings. How do you create an income plan that works for 3.5 decades?
Yeah, so that's the question, right? That's what we help people do. That's why it's what retirement means to you. It's not just a play on our name. We want to sit down and talk with people and say, what are you looking to do in retirement? What kind of things are you wanting to do? And let's plan for that. Retirement is, we like to segregate it into buckets. People need to have a safety bucket, a bucket where if things go wrong or go awry, they can go and dip into that right away. But then we need to design an income plan, because the last thing you want is when the market is down to have to be pulling money out of those assets and have a fire sale on your own investments. But if we segregate money into that bucket and we design an income strategy, and we can talk about some of the tools that we use in that bucket, then you can still have some of your money in a third bucket that's maybe a little bit more aggressive. So people think when they come in with their 401k, hey, I'm just going to draw off of this, but they don't really have a strategy for that. And we've heard about the 4% rule, which, by the way, came about in 1994. An advisor wrote a book about the 4% rule. And over the last 30 years, the stock market has done this. And if you've drawn 4% for an inflation adjusted, you're not going to run out of money in retirement. Problem is, in 1994, bond yields and CD rates and fixed rates were a lot higher, and a lot of people still had those pensions. Today, it's a whole different thing. A lot of people say that that same strategy should be a 2.75% withdrawal rate. However, it's hard for people to live off of that withdrawal rate. So we have to look at alternative methods, things like fixed index annuities that have lifetime income riders. These are tools that are based off of, the returns are based off of a stock market index, but they have no downside risk. But you're capped on the upside because we're not trying to double the money. We're just trying to get a reasonable rate of return. But on the other side, you can put a rider on there that guarantees a lifetime income. So no matter what happens in the market, that paycheck is always going to come in. And we can design that for just one person or for a joint life expectancy. So think of it as your own personal pension plan, but you're in control of it. So we sit down and show people how to do that. Then we look on the third bucket, in the risk-adjusted bucket, and we want to look at, okay, are you conservative, are you moderate, are you aggressive? But we have tools there where we can even kind of put up guardrails to help minimize some of the downside when we see market crashes like we've seen in 2008, in 2020, 2022, where they don't get hit as hard, even in that third bucket.
Yeah. And trying to do that for over a 30-year period, we're going to see market downturns. You were using the example of 2008, but there's also 2020. There was the dot-com bust in 2000. We're going to probably also see 2 or 3 or 4 market ups, downs in 30 to 35 years of retirement. So I like having those different sectors. Some of it is consistent income. Some of it is longer-term growth. Would you say conservative, though, on that growth? Even the monies that are exposed to the markets, would you take a more conservative approach, or are we still looking at the long game and saying, hey, let's take all the ups and downs?
Well, it's an individual tailored approach, right? Some people have more assets that they can put into that third bucket, and some people have a little bit more taste for risk in that third bucket. So that's a conversation that we have to have. But again, regardless, I feel like that income bucket is the most important, because in retirement, income is the outcome. You want to have a nice income. A number on a piece of paper doesn't mean anything if you don't have cash flow in retirement. So we want to guarantee that cash flow as much as possible. And Spike, I've been doing this 27 years. 27 years. I started in 1998. So when you talk about 30 years in retirement, I have had almost 30 years of doing this and helping people retire. I've seen these plans that work and the ones that don't. And so I help my clients implement the ones that I know will work and that I've seen have success over that 27 years.
Yeah. You just brushed along a rail of interest rates. We go back to the 90s, heck, you go all the way back to the 80s. Oh boy, there were some great interest rates. It was fantastic. There were also some high interest rates on your mortgages back then. From 1994, though, when you had better interest rates on fixed tools, then we went through the 2000s all the way up through the 2020s, where interest rates on fixed tools, let's just say, were pretty terrible, right? They were pretty low. But now interest rates have adjusted over the last couple of years in the other direction. If you have tools that you got 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years ago that were based on interest rates, and you've got some of those lower rates locked in, is there anything you can do about those tools?
Absolutely. It's time to refinance your retirement.
Boom! There you go.
We know that when interest rates go down, we refinance debt. Lower your mortgage rate, right? It's pretty common sense. Everyone looks at doing that as soon as interest rates drop. But what they don't realize, when interest rates go up, they can refinance their retirement, get more yield on some of their investments. And some of those older products or vehicles, they don't go back and give you the higher interest rate that they're paying today. You're locked into those older rates. So I've even been able to show people before 2022, maybe they got into an instrument in 2020 or 2021 before the interest rate hike, and went back and be able to replace those and give them a much better deal. And it doesn't always work. We have to look and make sure it's in the best interest of the client. But a lot of times we've helped them refinance that, be able to get them more income higher interest rates, without hurting them by getting them out of the old product. So it's really important for people to sit down and understand. When you're talking about interest rates, in 1998, I had vehicles that would pay 8%, 9% interest guaranteed for 10 years. Today, I mean, it would fly off the shelf,
Yeah.
right? The problem was in 1998, we were in the middle of the dot-com boom. So no one wanted 8 or 9%. They weren't satisfied with that.
Yeah.
They were making
so
30,
that was
30.
something that didn't look good back then,
No,
even though people would clamor to it right now.
I mean, people were making 30% in their portfolios. People were mortgaging their home, not at my advice, mortgaging their home because they had 12% interest rates on their home back then, but they were getting 30% on their investments. So it seemed like a good idea till it wasn't, right? And then we had the dot-com crash in 2000, and then people were upside down. So I don't recommend that people ever do that. But like you said, through the 2000s, we've seen an interest rate decline, and almost for 22 years, we didn't see an increase like we've seen in 2022, and we've seen 13 of those. So again, it's a great time to refinance your retirement. And that's one of the things that we help you with if you call our office, 844-878-1293. It's part of our on-track retirement review. If you give us a call, you come in, we can look at the vehicles that you have and see if a retirement refinance makes sense for you. We can also look at the fees that you're paying, the risk in your portfolio, and we can help you design a written income plan, not a verbal income plan, a written income plan. Because verbal plans tend to fade, but written income plans are easy to look at, easy to understand, and make adjustments. So give us a call, 844-878-1293.
And something I want to be clear about as well is that you are an independent financial advisor. You are an independent fiduciary, which means that as you review whatever tool it might be, independently and as a fiduciary, you have to let the person know if that product is still in their best interest or if it is not. So, I mean, if it's got a pretty good rate, or we've heard of phrases like surrender charges, if it would cost too much to do some sort of transfer, you say, not in your best interest. You're obligated to have to tell people that. And you're also obligated to be able to look at the entire world as an independent advisor. You're not beholden to basically one company to say, oh, these are the only tools that are available. You can look everywhere, correct?
That is correct. No one's handing down recommendations that I need to show my clients or that are pressuring me to show my clients. When they pull up to our office, my name is on the building, right? I'm on the shingle. So I control everything that happens in that office. But because we work under a fiduciary capacity, we're held to a much higher standard from a legislative or oversight.
Yeah.
So when we do some type of replacement or we do a plan and recommend it for people, we have to be able to explain why we made that recommendation, why we use this product over this product. So all of that goes back into play to really getting to know our customer and helping them on that on-track review.
Right. So you can call that phone number right now. Get your own retirement refinance review. Are the tools you're using that are based on interest rates outdated from 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago? You might be able to replace them. And Jerry Means here, your fiduciary, will help you review those at no cost to you. Call that phone number. More of what retirement means to you with Jerry Means right after this.
Have you ever considered refinancing your retirement? When interest rates are low, you might be able to refinance your home, your car loan, and even your credit card rates, because it could help you keep more of your own money in your pocket each month. Yet when interest rates go up, it may make sense to refinance your retirement. Higher interest rates could provide income opportunities that you may not be aware of. What works for your portfolio during low interest rates may not work for you when interest rates are high. Find out if a retirement refi could work better for you. Give us a call today and schedule a complimentary Refi Your Retirement review.
Welcome back. You are with financial advisor Jerry Means of the Means Financial Group right here in the greater St. Louis area. Retiring today is different than it was 30, 40 years ago. And then we have to think 30 to maybe even 40 years in the future of what's going to be different. You had talked about legislative risk. We think the taxes will be extended, the tax cuts for 3 or 4 years. But I don't know if that means that 30 or 40 years down the road that we'll still have the same tax brackets. If we're saving for retirement, can you talk to me just a little bit about the difference of this traditional 401k savings, and I'm hearing a lot more buzz on Roth 401k savings. Are they the same? I mean, they got a lot of letters in them. They sound pretty similar. It's the same number. Do they do the same thing?
Well, the reason why people invested in the 401k to begin with, or any qualified plan, whether it's a 403p, TSP, any 457 plan, all of the alphabet soup, right? But all of those pre-tax plans, the idea was to have a lower income in that given year to save on taxes. Grow that money tax deferred, and then when you retire, you're in a lower tax bracket because you have lower income and you pull that money out and pay less taxes. The problem with that is it doesn't account for rising tax rates, Medicare rates, all of these and different legislative changes, right? So it's really important to understand you're saving taxes now, but you're going to pay eventually. And right now, I mean, most people would agree we're probably in the lowest tax brackets that we're ever going to see. So putting money into those plans now to get that tax deferral might not be the best for you. I'm not saying not to do that because automatic saving is always good, especially if you're getting matching, but maybe diversify if the plan offers a Roth 401k, maybe put some into the traditional 401k where it's tax deferred to help save on some of the income now for high income earners, and then put some of the money into the Roth so that down the road it's tax free. Today, you don't get any breaks when you put money into the Roth IRA. You don't get a tax break today, but you're growing that money tax deferred, and if you play by the rules, it comes out completely tax free. So now you're looking at maybe 15, 20 years, depending on your age, of tax deferred that's going to come out tax free. So it's not always an all-in-one answer, oh, I should go all pre-tax, all Roth. A lot of times it's a blend of those strategies. And if people have money in old 401ks, we can start looking at Roth conversions. And there's things there that we can look at. But you have to be careful with that because if you're on Medicare, there's something called IRMA. And most people don't understand what IRMA is. It stands for Income Related Monthly Adjusted Amount. I even have to look down. It's a complicated one.
Yeah.
But basically, if you're over certain income levels, your Medicare premiums can go up as high as $400 a month compared to what they are now. So it can be a huge increase. And when you look at that $400 a month over time, that's a pretty big expense or pretty big fee. They call it a surcharge. To me, I feel like it's a penalty. So you have to be careful on how your income is going to affect your Medicare premiums, among other things. And we have strategies for that. So when we sit down with the client, once we see their whole picture, we can punch things in and kind of show them and illustrate, hey, here's some of your break-even points. Here's some things that we can do to help you.
You've got Irma, you've got Uncle Sam, you've got a lot of other people in these retirement accounts that I don't want in there. But I understand what you're saying.
Your 401k has a partner.
Yeah, your 401k's got a partner, and it's Uncle Sam. And what we're talking about is possibly trying to get Uncle Sam out as soon as possible. Now, also what you're saying, though, with IRMA, they'll look back for the last couple of years to see what your earnings were. So if you do a lot of Roth conversions or a lot of Roth saving, it can increase your Medicare payments. On the other hand, there's usually anywhere from $50,000, $100,000, $150,000 to sometimes $200,000 worth of room in between the tax brackets. So what you're saying is, well, maybe we could do a little bit. Maybe we could do a half and half. Maybe you could do a conversion. But I do know this, we also have some of the largest individual tax brackets for ourselves or tax breaks for ourselves, $15,000 a person. Or if you're married filing jointly, that's $30,000. So if you put in, let's say, up to your own at $15,000 into a Roth 401k, well, you get to take that off on your own personal taxes. That's not a bad way to go. No. How much do you coordinate, though, with doing taxes for folks? Is this part of what you do in the office?
So just to be clear, we don't actually do the tax return, or the tax preparation where we send it out to the IRS. We're doing tax planning. And I think that's the big misconception that people have, is they go to their tax preparer and think that that person is going to help them lower their tax bill. The year's already over. They're basically handing them their forms. They're punching it into a TurboTax or some type of program like that. And here's the output, and we'll help you file it. What we're doing is we're sitting down and saying, okay, how can we save on your taxes next year? How can we save on your taxes throughout your entire retirement? What are some of the things that we can do to help you avoid some of these pitfalls? So once we do that, then the tax preparation becomes really easy for that person.
Yeah. Before we get to the end of the show here, we'll go to our producer. If we can pull up meantaxesagain.com, the meantaxes.com. This is a free tool. So again, while Jerry's not going to file your taxes, this is something that you could either bring to your tax preparer or bring into your financial advisor and say, this is how much I'm going to have to pay in taxes. So you go to this meantaxes.com, or you can scan this QR code if you want to with your camera function on your phone. Click on it and just put in a couple of inputs, and you'll get a report right away of how much you owe in taxes on your tax-deferred savings. 401ks, 403bs, 457s, any of your 401ks you've rolled into your own IRA, whatever that number is, you'll find out exactly how much you're going to owe in taxes. Then you can reach out to your tax preparer or someone like Jerry and help you figure out how we can lower those tax obligations in retirement. But use the free tool. I know we're watching TV right now, but you got your phone there too. You can go right to it. As we talk about getting your on-track retirement review, we talked about taxes, we talked about income. What are some of the other aspects of what you do at the Means Financial Group? What is the total on-track review?
I'm glad to tell viewers about that, but one of the things I want the takeaway to be with doing things like the Roth conversions and trying to avoid IRMA or at least reduce it, it's not a do-it-yourself thing. I mean, you can, but you're playing a very dangerous, risky game, I think, if you don't have the experts and the tools to really sit down and understand those things. And that's where we come into play. And that's just one of the things that we do on the on-track review. But all the things that we do, we sit down and we look and say, okay, what is your retirement income plan? Let's design a written plan that's clear and concise. Let's look at the fees that you're paying in your portfolio. Are you paying excessive fees? It's not uncommon for someone to come into my office and really not know the fees that they're paying. And by the time we're done going through the process, they find out that they've been paying 3 to 4% a year annually in fees. If we can shave some of that off, it's going to help with that portfolio. We want to look at what is your long-term care plan for health care. You know, if something happens to you or your spouse and you need care, what is your strategy for that? That's something that we can help you design. Do you have a plan for your Medicare supplement or Medicare Advantage? Angela in our office can sit down and have a discussion with you so that you kind of have an idea what that's going to look like, and she actually can help you shop for that and understand the different plans. And the big one is taxes. We're going to help you with the taxes, and we're going to look at the risk in your portfolio. We're doing all of this at no cost, no obligation. Our goal is for you to come into our office, explain these things to you, hopefully leave you better than we found you. Of course, we would love you to become a client, but again, the goal is to just help you out, and we do that at no cost, no obligation. So give us a call, 844-878-1293.
Jerry Means, thank you so very much for taking us through it today. Your retirement is going to be a lot more complicated than likely it was for your parents or your grandparents, especially since almost 85% of Americans don't have any version of any sort of pension plan. So do yourself a favor, get your own on-track retirement review started right now. It is no cost to you, no obligation. Call the phone number. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back next week.